In this episode of Dentside Depot, we're going to continue our series on the history of Ford trucks. Specifically, we're going to look at and define the Ford Lowboy pickup truck. Stay tuned as we look at all the different characteristics for this particular pickup truck, the advances in engineering design that Ford made, and what makes this particular 4x4 so special. If you didn't catch my previous history video on Ford Highboy trucks, you may want to pause and go back and watch that video first. The link is down in the description below. It is believed that in the late 70s or early 1980s, J.C. Whitney ran into a problem when it came to telling customers what types of parts they were selling. As such, the Highboy and Lowboy trucks had completely different parts. It was believed that J.C. Whitney was the first to give these trucks those particular nicknames, and therefore the Lowboy truck was born. And that brings us to 1977 and a half through 1979 with the introduction of the Ford Lowboy truck. A step forward in engineering for Ford pickup trucks that would introduce completely brand new designs that would be much better than its predecessor, the Highboy. Before diving into all the main characteristics that make a Lowboy truck, let's first define exactly what a Lowboy is. A Lowboy Ford pickup truck is an F-250 and in 1979 only, an F-350 4x4 built from March 1977 and assembled after serial number Y20000 all the way through the end of 6th generation Ford truck production in 1979. Now let's take a look at all the specific different characteristics of these particular trucks as they varied greatly from their predecessor, the affectionately known Ford Highboy. But before we do, let's take a look at Ford's advertising campaign during this time and see exactly what they were trying to achieve with their new heavy-duty 4x4 pickup trucks.
You're seeing some real tough truck pounding. At Ford's Arizona Proving Ground, we've been testing body and suspension components over a tough durability course for more than 20 years. Truck-jarring bumps, mud baths, salt baths, frame twists, uphill poundings. And Ford pickups with twin I-beam suspension are built tough to take it. In fact, Ford test trucks got over 1 million test miles last year. Tough Fords, America's best-selling pickup.
First up, the Lowboy pickup trucks would introduce a completely new transfer case design. While the NP205 was available on the Highboy truck, it was always a divorced transfer case and never a married transfer case. In this particular instance, all Lowboy pickup trucks would feature an NP205 married transfer case that you can see right here. These particular transfer cases are extremely bulletproof and are very sought after today by those that are looking to do extreme 4x4 off-roading. The next key difference or change that Ford made starting in 1977 and a half was a change to the frame. The Highboy frame was not nearly as wide as the new frames would become. Ford on their 4x4 pickup trucks, specifically the Lowboys, would now have a 37.5-inch wide frame. The purpose of making this change was to allow for a fuel tank to be placed in the back of the pickup truck. The Highboy pickup trucks were unable to do this because the frame could not accommodate a fuel tank in the back, which is why they were only ever equipped with an in-cab tank or potentially with an additional saddle tank. Now Ford was able to equip 2 fuel tanks that were attached through the bed and into the frame. Engine options for the Lowboy would be somewhat the same depending on the year. While Highboy pickup trucks in 1977 could have the 351M and the 400, all of the Lowboy trucks would have a 351M or a 400. In addition, you could also get the 300 straight 6 on Lowboy pickup trucks. Unfortunately, much like the Highboys, Ford did not offer the big block 460 like they did on the two-wheel drive trucks throughout the 1970s. I personally would consider this to be one of the biggest mistakes and one of the strangest decisions that Ford made. Another big change for the Lowboy pickup trucks would be the front axle. The 2 axles that were offered for the Lowboy pickup trucks would be the Dana 60 Kingpin starting in 1978 or the Dana 44 HD High Pinion in 1977 through 1979. You can see the Dana 60 Kingpin here on the left and the Dana 44 on the right. The easiest way to identify the difference between the two is just to simply look at the steering knuckle. It is clearly obvious which one is a Kingpin and which one is a Dana 44 by simply looking in that particular area. The Dana 60 Kingpin would be offered on 1978 Lowboy pickup trucks as an option for F-250 only, And then in 1979, they would be standard on all of the F-350 trucks, which was the only year that Ford offered that. And they were optional on all the F-250 trucks as a part of the snowplow package. One thing Ford did not change for the lowboy trucks is they still offered the 4x4 heavy-duty trucks in a regular cab and a crew cab configuration. One thing that did change is you could now get these trucks with a camper special or a trailer special. There would be additional trailering options that you couldn't necessarily get on earlier model highboys. But one of the biggest changes for the lowboy trucks would come about in 1978. This would be the first year that Ford would offer the Super Cab truck available in 4x4. 1978 would be the premier year to have a Super Cab truck, and then it would crescendo in 1979 with the F-350 Super Cab truck. Today, those particular 4x4s are extremely rare and sought after by collectors. The lowboy pickup trucks would feature all of the interior options that you could get on any of the two-wheel drive pickup trucks, but the decor and the trim was much greater than it was for the highboys. All the way at the bottom, like the highboys, would be the custom trim, where you would get the base vinyl or cloth package. Next up would be the Ranger that would feature some additional options. Then you would have the Ranger XLT as the third option for interior trim packaging. This would feature wood grain and a few other cool looking features. And then lastly, and new for 1978 and continued through 1979, the new top dog would become the Ranger Lariat. This would be Ford's top package and would feature a very, very nice decor package inside of the pickup truck. You would have different door panels, a different seat, a different headliner, a plush carpet, kick panel carpet, as well as a few other additional items like chrome covers on the seat belts that would really set these particular trucks off from all others. In addition, starting in 1979, Ford would offer some different unique trim packages such as the freewheeling truck. You can see that particular trim up in the right-hand corner. You could get the freewheeling trim on the F-250 and F-350 trucks if you wanted to. There would also be additional special packages in 1979 as well. Although many options would remain the same for the lowboys when compared to the highboys, there were a few additional options that you could only get with the lowboy trucks. Some of the coolest options that you could get on lowboy trucks were speed control, CB radio, AM digital clock radio, of course air conditioning, and flipper windows for the super cabs, although some of these options were of course available for the highboys as well, depending on the year. There's no doubt that the lowboy pickup trucks were a huge advancement in engineering design. Although many people prefer the highboys over the lowboy pickup trucks, there's no doubt that the lowboy was an advancement in general engineering design and drove much better than the highboy pickup trucks. If you enjoyed this episode of Dentside Depot, remember to like and subscribe and keep restoring those classic trucks.